Recording. You got it. I'm recorded. You can vote when the council president go live. Thank you. Everybody else might be muted, correct, as well as our speakers are on our laptop.
Wow, we're getting better at this. How's that? Good? All right, good. Yeah, nice. All right, here we go. Let's begin. Good evening, everybody. This is the Mount Vernon City Council. Today is Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. As we always do, we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Since we are honored to have our true Corporation Counsel here, I would ask for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Corporation Counsel Brian Johnson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir, for the honor.
Of course. Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you very much. We don't have that many people here in the actual audience. We actually have...
You're muted.
Sorry? We actually have just about...
You're muted.
Now.
Right. You want me to unmute my computer?
No.
Here. Yeah, no, I'm talking now. It should be okay. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear him now?
Hello? Can you hear me now? Okay, good. Yes, my computer is muted, but I'm using the system within the room to work through Zoom. So yes, my computer is muted. All right. So with that, we have about 7 people in the audience. We lost. Is that better? I think they're adjusting the mic, so I think the sound is fine. We're getting a little bit of reverb in the room, but I think it's okay for people in the audience. Maybe if I talk a little bit lower. Yeah. Mr. Holmes, you may want to turn down your mic. Yeah, and then I think maybe when our participants from home are talking, we may have to bring it back. Yep, I think that's good. Can you hear me okay, Councilwoman Copeland? Okay, excellent. All right. So as we always do, we like to just ask everybody to turn off your cell phones. I will turn off mine as well. Please turn them on to vibrate or just simply turn them off. See, there you go. Mine's off. We just want you to know that there are 3 exits out of here. There's the double doors in the middle. There's also a singular door in the back. There's also a staircase in the back if we have to leave council chambers. The council members will most likely use the room that is off of the galley. If there are any men with hats on and excluding the officers, we ask you to remove them. And with that, we're going to begin. I want to first address the public that there was a special Board of Estimate meeting where we allowed our attorney today to continue the negotiations on the sewer line lawsuit that we had with the federal government and with the state of New York. So I was hoping to have a better update by this evening's meeting, but the reality is that we're still in negotiations to try to come to a settlement with that, and we're hoping that we have a good settlement in the very near future. So that is actually good news. We do have, the council has sent out, as we legislated, to have subpoenas for some information from some of the city departments. We are awaiting those subpoenas to be returned. We expect some good information from that as well. So the council is doing the work that we need to be doing. We've done some research with the financial workings of this city as well. Tonight, the highlights of our legislation is to override our tax cap, and we can explain that a little bit more as that legislation comes forward. But in summary, after calculations and discussing it with the state of New York, We believe that we are still under the tax cap. However, we are still going to look to override the tax cap, even though the calculation that we've come up with, we believe is under the tax cap. As you know, we are a few years behind with our finances, and what we did not want to do was to not override the tax cap, and then in a future year, we realized that we should have, and then we would be penalized for not overriding. So as a safety measure, even though we think we are below the tax cap, we are going to formalize the vote tonight to override the tax cap, despite being under the tax cap. And this was done with a lot of thought and a lot of calculations, and we want to thank the administration for assisting us with that. But tonight, we believe that we are going to, one, pass the budget, in correct order. First, we're going to override the tax cap, and second to that, we are going to pass the budget as it was submitted to the council 2 weeks ago for a public hearing. But don't take my word for it. Stick around for the legislation to see how the council votes on it. At this time, I'm going to ask for updates from the council members from their committees. One thing, we have not done that in the past, but I think it's good as a commutative measure to speak about some items that are going on in your committees. So if there's anything that you want to relay to the public through your committee, I ask you to do that now as a proactive measure instead of responding to the community when they come out and speak to us. So Councilman Thompson, did you have anything that you wanted to relay at this time that may be going on in the community? If you do, just let me know.
Just an update with a couple of things with public safety and code. Everything is on the up and up. We're still working with our police reform. We're going to be bringing that to the public for more input. We had input from the public. We're going to get more input from the public, as well as I'm in the process of restoring what we used to have in the community, which is neighborhood watch. And, that's going to help the neighbors as well as the police within the community to make sure that our community is safer. So right now I'm on the south side getting that together. It's coming along. I'm going to make sure that it's totally transparent so every part of the community can get involved with it, and we can get that going on throughout the entire city to make our city safer. Also, I've been working along with a couple of residents to ensure that our streets remain safe. I know right now we're looking at several different potholes that comes with bad weather. Hopefully, I'll let Duarte cover that when she speaks. But everything is going to take a little bit of time. We just have to be patient because we have to follow protocol. But everything is looking on the up and up, and I can't wait to see everything move forward. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilman Thompson. Councilman Thompson is Chair of Finance and Planning. Councilwoman Duarte? Oh.
I think he's Chair of Public Safety and Codes.
Thank you. Sorry, y'all. Councilman Thompson is Chair of Public Safety and Codes. Yes. Councilwoman Copeland is Chair of Finance and Planning. Councilwoman Copeland, you'll be after Councilwoman Duarte.
Thank you, Council President. So to just follow up on what Council Thompson just mentioned regarding the potholes, the challenge there is that our asphalt bill has not been paid. I know that the department has followed up with the comptroller asking for a status report, and I haven't seen an update from the comptroller as of yet. Council President gave us an update earlier regarding the Department of Justice lawsuit with the EPA and the DEC. With regards to the water department, they've actually been making quite a bit of progress in terms of really cleaning up their accounting and establishing policies and procedures, internal controls, so that they have a real robust system of governance with regards to the water department and what the water department does. I've requested of the commissioner to come and update the council because I think he's been making quite a bit of progress. and it would be great for him to share that with us. He will be attending our next work session on Monday, March 8th. To update the council, he's also making progress with the outstanding audits. They've completed 2017, so he'll update us about that as well. They're moving on to auditing 2018 and 2019. And that is as far as the latest updates I have to share right now.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Duarte. Councilwoman Copeland.
So I'm hoping to, we've been speaking about it back and forth, but the meeting with the assessor in terms of doing a revaluation of our city and how we can formulate that.
Can we hear? Hold on, Councilwoman Copeland. We're going to adjust the volume for you here. Sorry. Try now, Councilwoman Copeland.
Try now, Councilwoman Copeland.
So I was saying, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, in terms
Can't
of thinking of doing, you can't hear me?
Councilwoman
Now you
Copeland,
can't see me?
give us a
Yeah,
try.
Is this better? So, and I'm gonna be try to have bi-weekly meetings with the different departments, but specifically with the assessor in terms of doing a revaluation of our community. I think that's something that hasn't been done. That's important. And basically, meeting with the planning department and those personnel, trying to get them up to speed, because I know they have several vacancies. So those will be two key things in this first quarter. And certainly trying to get some financial information by our first quarter. That'll help going forward, so we're not passing a budget in late February again. Hopefully, if we start to get numbers in, we'll be better prepared to vote in December instead of February. So that's what I have.
I don't think they heard you, Lisa.
I'm sorry?
I don't think they heard you. Did they?
I don't know.
I don't think so. It doesn't look like Council President heard you.
Can you hear me, Mr. President? Did you hear what I said prior to this? I've stopped talking.
Can you come off mute and try now?
How's this? Can you hear me? You can't hear me? Can you hear me? Well, I forgot what I said. I just said it 3 times and I thought you heard me.
So Councilwoman Copeland, try your audio now.
How's this?
Nope, she's still,
You can't hear me?
So do we need one
Just move
source?
on.
Should we just turn on your computer volume a little bit? Or does that have to,
Councilwoman Copeland?
Volume. Yes. You want me to turn my volume up? Does that help?
turn yours down? William?
Does that help? Well, the main thing is we can hear you, so I want to hear the speaker.
We can hear you loud and clear now, thank you.
So anyway, with the planning department in terms of full staffing and the assistant in terms of trying to do a revaluation of at least part of the community and get it started, since it's been 60 years or more since we've had a revaluation. So that's what I say.
Does that complete your report? Thank you.
Oh, yes, I thought I said, yes, that completes my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Farquharson?
Thank you, Mr. President. So I chair Human Resources, and the focus, I think, right now is COVID-related in terms of ensuring that our seniors, particularly in those who are not who are not mobile or who don't have computer access, are able to get vaccinated. It's Black History Month, and the youth bureau is doing several events. They had one event this evening, and there is the challenge tomorrow. So, in addition to getting, hopefully a better working relationship and getting some of the invoices paid that are outstanding. I was copied on an email today for the youth bureau regarding that. There's one outstanding item from there's a piece of legislation I passed last year when I chaired a different committee, and that is the ban on gas powered leaf blowers and implementing a new stream of revenue, which is a permit for lawn services. So I've asked the clerk to convene a meeting between myself to implement that piece of legislation. So that's something I hope to get accomplished shortly. That completes my report. Thank you.
All right. Am I good? Yes, okay. So, yes, thank you, everybody. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, but, with everybody in different places and mics everywhere, we're trying to make it smooth, and I appreciate everybody's patience. With that, we're going to go right into our public speaking session. We only have 5 speakers tonight. I see that we have one via Zoom, and we have an additional 4 that have chosen to speak. I see one person that is not here, but I'm going to begin with our Corporation Counsel, Mr. Brian Johnson, who I'm going to ask at this time to come to the podium and begin the public speaking session.
Okay. Thank you, City Council President, to all the City Council members, City Clerk. Department submits bills late. We submit bills when we get them. We properly provide them. A lot of these bills are late. Some of them predate my department. 2018, 2019. They've not been paid. There's been some narrative that we held on to them and they were not known about. I have written confirmation from other attorneys that said that they absolutely had submitted these bills multiple times in years prior. So I just want to address that narrative that's kind of getting out there. Then there's a discussion about settlements. Any settlement that is done in my department, a thorough cost benefit analysis is done. My undergraduate degree is a business with a concentration in management, and obviously, I'm an attorney. So I look at every case and determine whether or not it needs to be settled. When's the best part to settle it? What you need to know is that when I inherited this law department with $2.4 million, a lot of the lawsuits that we have are political in nature. Some of it has to do with um, people being terminated without being terminated properly. We also have a lot of union grievances due to contractual disputes. There seems to be a misunderstanding. Political arguments are legal. Yeah. I have to start from the top. Okay, okay. So I'll start with the settlements. You will be seeing an increase. You will be seeing an increase in settlements. Because you have to, because you have a lot of cases that are extremely expensive to defend. You have cases that are politically in nature, employment things where we are paying for 2 and 3 lawyers on one case, for instance, and not to pick on anybody, but the legal fees for former Mayor Thomas alone for the last 6 months was $80,000, right? For the lawsuits that were filed that were employment related to him. And he's not the only one. I'm just pointing out. So as you look at the budget tonight for settlements, you will see that in 6 months, $80,000 on one. So I encourage the elected officials to kind of listen to the attorneys and go through things properly because we're receiving a lot of lawsuits. That goes to contractual disputes. There seems to be an understanding from the finance department that they can't pay people properly in accordance with contractual obligations. Political arguments and not legal defenses. So I'm settling them, right? Because we don't have labor council now, right? Labor council is claiming they owed over $700,000, right, for the last 2 years, right? And I'm trying to stop the bleeding, but I don't really have a lot of cooperation in that area. Um, our police are defended. They love the firm that we have. The firm does excellent work for us. They had a conversation with me this week. They have 40 cases. They're owed $500,000. They're not going to be able to continue to carry the city. So while you see what you have budgeted for the 2021 budget, it is nowhere near the $1 million that I told you. And we have other lawyers, right? These are specialized counsel, not counsel that can work in my office. We don't have a litigator. It's also important to note that the city has 4 very active unions and no labor representative whatsoever. We don't have a labor relations person. We don't have a labor attorney in-house. I have an ad out trying to correct that. Um, One of the things that I did is I stayed here and I drafted last year Chapter 268, which was independent counsel. I was trying to stop the bleeding and put in place a very formalized proceeding that I, as a corporation counsel, up doing work for other departments, specifically the finance department, right? Hiring counsel without, in my view, in reckless disregard, um, and uh, and that's not being followed. So, I can't control the cost if I can't control the people incurring cost. So I just want to let you know that the situation is still very grave. Your water law department is underwater. It's continuously being underwater. We're receiving new lawsuits every day for failure for the finance department to provide information, for failure to timely payments. And as you know from some of the cases that we've had already, when we lose these cases and get a judgment, it's 9% per annum from the date that the court decides that the funds were due and owing. All right?
Thank you, Corporation Counsel Johnson. Yes, the council is very familiar with our legal issues at hand. As we continue on, I see our former mayor here, Ernie Davis. Mr. Davis, will you come forward, please, and address the council and the citizens of Mount Vernon, New York? Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm getting old and I can't see, I can't hear. So I decided to come here and preach a little bit.
You have 4 minutes. You have 4 minutes. You have 4 minutes, sir.
I arrive at this occasion understanding the seriousness of it. Mr. President, City Clerk, members of the City Council, I wrote a letter previously to the mayor, and I hope you got a copy of it, but just in case, I'll drop it off to you. And it was regarding the selling of the YMCA. Why would I want to keep what some of you might think is an aging facility? Some of you thought that Memorial Field was an aging facility and therefore it had no connection with history. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'm an architect by profession, and I came into city government. I was a building commissioner, chairman of the planning board, chairman of the real estate board. I was the assessor and one of the first persons of color to serve on the county board of legislators. So I've been around for a little while. And I understand the connection to where we are now and what sacrifices people made long before you or I came here. Why would you take a facility understanding the complexities and the forces that are in this city? There have been 12 murders at least over the last few years. We have one facility, the Boys and Girls Club. There's no facility in this city or probably in many other cities that has after-school programs, daycare, swimming pool, indoor track, indoor basketball, exercise room, community program, housing for veterans. And some people say the assumption is that you are going to plug an economic deficit by selling the Y. Well, if you can do basic math, I borrowed $1.7 million to fix the Y and to buy the Y. From what I hear, it is going to be $1.5 million somebody is going to offer you. And somewhere somebody had remedial math because they couldn't figure out how do you plug a deficit with a loss. To my way of thinking, that can't be done. Not only cannot that be done, but what you are taking away from a community, you cannot replicate. Some people will say that, well, there are environmental problems. Well, I guess it is, since the Richard Thomas administration deliberately let that Y fall into disrepair. And now you're saying, well, it's gone. We can't do anything about it. There is no way that you can sit in the seats that you're sitting in and not understand that what is being proposed is diametrically wrong for the community that we serve. And the council, you who were sitting here, allowed that to happen. And I have no patience with that. If we are going to serve the people, if this job means anything to you, you are here to make the community better. And how could you determine that it's in the interest of people to build a structure and take away the things that people need? Most of you are very intelligent people, at least administratively. But what has been shown, not just on a local level, but on a national level, there are people who are sitting in these seats who have no business sitting there, if the interests of the people are to be considered. What do you do? Well, my administration, what is that?
If he's talking, Council President.
Okay. So, I think I've shown that it's folly in doing this for economic reasons. So what do you do? Well, first of all, you ought to look into approving the development of a McQuestion Park. It's been waiting on the council for over 7 years. You need to approve the zoning for 3rd Street. That's been sitting around for 5 years. You need to approve the zoning update for the McQuestion Parkway. You need to approve the project development on West 3rd Street that's been hanging around for over 10 years. I bought that property when I was in office the first time. If you develop that, 4th Avenue changes, jobs changes, the crime rate change. I know, I've done this. How could you not see that? Planning department, one of the most important departments in the city is the planning department. You have nobody there. And if you have nobody there, you can't look for grants. You can't talk about improving anything. You cannot pave streets with the urban development because the streets, HUD will give you money to pave streets in the low and moderate income areas. But if you have nobody hustling for you in Washington, getting money to do these things, you would do stupid stuff like take Y's from the community. Chips. We use chips to pave the streets. You can, if you have a car, or even if you walk, you can go down the street and you will see that you can almost wreck your car. That Tesla, where's that car you're driving, Mr. President? You're going to knock it out of line because you have not done the things that get CHIPS money so that you can pave your streets. Listen, folks. You're too tribal. I know somebody, so I'm going to vote for them to be in office. You never ask the basic question, can they do the job? It has been proven that the people that a lot of people put in office cannot do this job. And if you can't do the job, what happens? People lose their faith in government. And when they lose their faith in government, they create another system that you might not like. So I beseech that you take this conversation we're having seriously. I beseech that the boys and girls walking the streets are expecting you to do the right thing. One more thing before I leave. I'm an architect, and I looked at my job as mayor over 16 years as an architect. That's why you see the roundabout. That's why you see the parks. That's why you see the improvements that we made, because I knew there's a connection for what you see that you don't like to what you see that you did not do. And if we have an election coming up, and I hope to God that the people have sense enough to put people in these positions who are serious about it. The job is not worth it for the money. I guarantee you. I spent $250,000 because somebody went to the FBI and they didn't find anything, but I had to get a lawyer. We're in very troubled times. So what happened is that people who were less than me won election. And so therefore, you don't have a hotel. So therefore, you won't have a Y. So therefore, 3rd Street will languish. Therefore, all of the things that we had planned to do, a higher power decided that Ernie Davis had to go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so very much. God bless you.
Egypt Allen.
Egypt Allen, 120 South 12th Avenue. So, on March the 1st, 1970, Patrick Moynihan, during the Nixon administration, decided to come up with a plan called benign neglect as it relates to the black community, which means you promise them everything and deliver nothing. I was listening to our distinguished mayor speak, and I was thinking along the same lines. It seems like there's a lot of distractions here. We are not talking about gentrification. We're not talking about homelessness. We're not talking about whatever that indigenous thing that comes up every summer that we talk about and never get to. We have a STEM school, and to my chagrin, we didn't encourage our children to be a part of the research project or putting out anything as relates to COVID-19, and that again goes with benign neglect. You set up these interesting labels and you tell the people how important they are, and then when it comes to executing them, it seems like there's always a hiccup. There's never enough money, or this is not the right time, or my favorite is it's an estimate proposal, so we'll get around to it in maybe 60 years, but sooner or later we'll get there. So I was thinking, while the council was sitting down and redlining and rezoning and pushing the city forward as it relates to brick and mortar as opposed to a heart and a pulse, I find it disturbing, because at the ending of the day, when it's all said and done, you need the people for the brick and mortar. And the brick and mortar is not important if the people can't afford to pay the taxes. And then I guess, like one of our council persons said, we have to have new people coming in because Mount Vernon needs to breathe. And I was thinking, as a strong member of the black community and the LGBT community, those of us that are here would like to stay. This increase in rah-rah cheerleading BS to bringing other people to continue to oppress black people, indigenous people, LGBT community, the working poor, the distracted is, it's not humiliating, but it's disconcerting. And I was wondering, why does it seem like every time we come to this table that everyone is always talking about brick and mortar as opposed to pulse and heartbeat? And you do talk about the pulse and heartbeat, but when we get there, I was thinking, how long are we going to continue to build these senior citizen developments, 55 and older? And God forbid my daughter should have to go away and I'm that senior citizen and I live in that complex, and my grandchildren, where would they go? Because it's only designed for senior citizens. It's not designed for grandparents and their children in the event of an emergency. And I was wondering, why do we do this? Why do we distinguish between the haves, the have-nots, children and adults, the educated, the non-educated, those that I think some of the city council members, and I've heard them say this before, belong here, and those that don't. And I sort of agree with the mayor as it relates to people here having their hearts and their minds in the right place as far as the legitimacy is concerned in moving the city. But when it comes to people, it's always a different story here. You know, smile, how you doing, and all this BS. But when it comes to taking care of women, especially black women, indigenous women, that the council is always ready to do something until it's time to do something. I was thinking about our police officers and our fire department and how much they have to go through, and it's always about when we get there. And it seems like we never get there. It seems like what we do is we get a new body, a new council president, and it goes on and on and on and on. The taxpayers go up and up and up, and then we're here again. And it doesn't seem like for the last 4 years we've gotten anywhere, but then that's my opinion. And then I start thinking, when it comes to legislating, how difficult it is to be able to sit down and listen to the things that you legislate that have nothing to do with a pulse and a heartbeat, rather a brick and mortar. So I guess at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, there's a part of me that agrees with the mayor that sometimes you have to put people in office that are willing to go the whole 9 yards and who are not willing to go along to get along, because I think that makes the best council person, not the person that abstains or the person that doesn't want to be bothered or the person who wants to fall back. I think the person that makes a decision that the people come first before the agenda, whatever the agenda is the council person that should be running for office, is the council person that should be allowed to say out loud. The people of Mount Vernon matter, whether they're black, white, brown, indigenous, LGBT community. We all collectively matter, and your agenda seemingly does not kind of coincide with the things that matter in our community. But I guess that is my opinion, and I think that it's important that women of all persuasions attempt to run for city council here in Mount Vernon.
Mrs. Allen? When you,
And is that my cue to leave, sir?
whenever, I'm just saying that, if you could.
If-
Your time is up. We've given you ample, more than 4
Okay,
minutes.
listen,
So
I don't want to go back and forth with you, and please stop referring to me as Miss Allen.
I'm sorry.
I prefer you to use pronouns. I respectfully recede.
Thank you. Thank you. We have Hope Marable on Zoom. Okay, so, Ms. Marable, just give us a moment. Mr. Clerk, our clerk is going to just, clean the mic, for the next speaker. When he returns, we'll ask you to begin. When you're ready, Mr. Clerk, just let me know. Yes, please. She is there. Whenever, let me know when you're ready. Mm-hmm. Ms. Marable, let's do a voice check, please, sound check.
Okay, check 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Just hold on, Ms. Marable. Okay, just, Ms. Marable, just talk a little bit, give us a test.
Sure, 1, 2, 3, check 1, 2, 1, 2.
Not yet, we don't hear you yet, hold on.
Check 1, check 1, check 2, check 3, check 4, check
Hold on, not yet, Ms.
5.
Marable. We're not hearing you yet. Okay, try now.
Hope, I wonder if you should turn up your,
Check 1, check 2, check 3.
Hope, turn up your volume. a little.
Volume, turn up your volume.
Okay, I've done so. Is that better? Check 1, check 2, check 3.
Hold on, Ms. Marable. We can't hear you here.
Maybe a little higher, Hope. Just a little higher.
Yes, it's up to max. Check 1, check 2, check 3. Check 1, check 2.
Lean forward then. Just lean forward when you speak. Maybe that would help.
Check 1, check 2, check 3.
That's better. Hold on. Speak some more, Ms. Marable.
Check 1, check 2, check 3.
Okay, that's good.
Check 1, check 2, check.
Okay,
check
Ms.
1,
Marable, I
check 2,
think
check
that's
3.
good. Let's try you from there. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I was told, I realized that, first of all, I would like to just, my name is 2 Fisher Drive, Mount Vernon, New York, 10552. Thank you so much to the City Council of Mount Vernon, New York, for allowing me to speak this evening. Thanks so much to Mayor Davis. I very much appreciated the comments that you made. I'll be as brief as possible. I was told that this was a waste of time to speak before the City Council this evening in regard to the sale of the YMCA. There are rumors floating on, and I truly hope, and pray that that's not the truth. We are speaking of 4 parcels of land, 4 parcels of land at the going rate of about $1.5 million, 2 parking lots, a parking lot on 2nd Avenue, on 3rd Avenue, a building, a small playground area, parking lots that can bring revenue into the city, because we can charge fees for parking, the parking meters, things of that nature. Are there any allowances being made for that? As we know, the best of all of communities have a YMCA. Even Donald Trump knows that. It was his theme song when he ran for re-election. Communities like Yonkers, New York, of where our sitting mayor, whom I fully support 100%, was the CEO of before taking the helm of leadership at this city. White Plains, New York, Scarsdale, New Rochelle, New York, Larchmont, Rye, Peekskill, communities that thrive, that have outpaced us monetarily, socially. We are the haves. We are the have-nots, and they are the haves. But yet we're not following their lead, and we're talking about getting rid of the YMCA instead of expanding on it and making it better. something that will give our children a recreational activity after school, perhaps during the reopening of our country once this COVID crisis is over. We have properties selling for anywhere from $800,000 to over $1 million on Locust Avenue, Rich Avenue, High Street, Magnolia Place, with not nearly as much land. And we're selling 4 parcels of land, of real property, for $1.5 million, about $500,000 for each parcel. Why are we doing that? And again, destroying the revenue that could come in from the parking lots. I'm going to say this, we're paying attention to who's voting, the yay and the nay, and what you're voting on. And so I'm really imploring you, please, please think this over really deeply before you go forward with it. The city needs the YMCA. Our children whom we have neglected to invest in for over 15 years, to be exact. They are thirsty for these sort of outlets, hungry for these sort of outlets. And so I just really implore you to really think it over. And I reiterate, the best of all communities have a YMCA. Please don't take this away from the Mount Vernon, New York community. One last thing, who would benefit from such a sale? And, with all due respect, Mr. Griffith, you are the chair of the real estate committee. You are a real estate professional. You're the president of the city council, and you are an employee at the Mount Vernon, New York Public Library, the chief account clerk. And then there are these rumors floating around about this Library Square project. Library Square. I hope with all conviction that this has nothing to do with this proposed development regarding Library Square. I truly hope that that's not okay, you're making funny faces. I'm saying to you, I truly hope that that's not at the cusp of all of this. And if it's not, please just clear it up for me, because the evidence is showing something different. As we know, a former councilman, Mr. Andre Wallace, has a property adjacent to the YMCA, and such a project will greatly increase the value of his property. And I'll stop there. Again, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm just hoping that there are not any clandestine reasons for the sale of this monument. I think that we should make it better, brighter, shine it up, make it a good place for our children. I do not believe that we should sell the YMCA, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Marable. And yes, by the way, Mrs. Marable is a trustee at the Mount Vernon Public Library. Usually I recognize our other elected officials, and I'm not going to fail to do so in your regard, Ms. Marable. Thank you. And to be quite honest, our corporation counsel, Brian Johnson, is also a trustee at the library, so I don't want to not include our corporation counsel in his other capacity as library trustee as well. So thank you. Our last speaker, Mr. Keller, would you mind coming forward? The microphone has been sterilized for you, so you can begin as soon as you arrive at the mic. Thank you.
Okay. I agree with Hope Maribel.
Just
Thomas Keller, 12 Pasadena Place. I agree with Hope Maribel and Ernie Davis, our former mayor. But I think when Hope was saying, I don't think there's a connection between the selling and this is low-income, subsidized housing for a developer. We're too crowded in Mount Vernon. The infrastructure can't handle it, and this is a mistake. Let's keep the Y. Now, I understand you're going to vote on the budget tonight, and it hasn't been changed from 2 weeks ago when we had a public hearing. I gave the council 3 opportunities to increase revenues, because evidently you can't reduce expenses once it gets to the public hearing. increasing the sales tax receipts because they're up by 450,000. You
No,
talking?
no, you're okay, Mr. Keller. Sorry.
Increasing the amount of revenue from the water department, which had been 2 or 3 million in the past. 850,000 seems a little low. And with the very likelihood that New York State is going to get more money from the federal government to keep state funding at 7.1 million rather than 6.4 million. Any one of these or combination and so forth would allow the budget to be increased, an increase of 2.3%. And again, 1.11 is lower assessments. The other 1.23, if I read it correctly, Mr. DiNapoli mentioned that as the tax cap. I found out that that's not necessarily the tax cap, and there's a formula. I really would like have it posted, perhaps have a meeting and go through the formula for the tax cap. I don't know what the tax cap is. I thought it was 1.23, and I wanted to stay under it. 1.23 plus 1.1 is 2.34, and not 386. Mr. Griffith is saying that we believe we're under, but we're going to override it. So I guess it's got to be at least 3.86 or higher. My understanding was tax cap, it's 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. And, you know, it's in arrears. I think it goes back to the fiscal year ending June 30th of last year that DiNapoli came to that conclusion. And it's the index in New York State. It's not necessarily the national one. Now, there are, I guess, 2 of the 3 incumbents are going to be running for re-election. I would urge Ms. Duarte, Ms. Parkinson, to vote against this, because it's going to be held against you should you get your 300 good signatures and get on the ballot for the June 22nd primary. One of the things that was never really mentioned in these budget negotiations, is the amount of money that the 4 unions and the non-union people contribute to their health care. A number of years ago, I think Maureen Walker told me that fire and police contribute something, but the other 2 unions, CSEA and Teamsters, do not. So in future collective bargaining agreements, I would hope that we can make some progress here. School district, everybody teaches, whatever union it is, non-union people contribute to their health care. And I think that should be the case with the city as well. One more thing. I didn't want to make a big deal of this before because there were more important things to talk about. This is an overview of the 2021 proposed annual estimate. And it has the mayor's name in the upper left-hand corner and the chief of staff on the right. This is replete with poor English, poor grammar. I'm gonna read you a couple examples here quickly. As a result, this is the second paragraph. As a result, our expense and revenue projections are a reflection of the minimal financial reports received from the comptroller, which included only the 2019 revenue and 2020 expense reports for the first 3 quarters. I assume what is meant here is the 2019 and 20 revenue and expenses, not just 1 year revenue and the other year expenses. But I don't know, but I'm just assuming that. Another thing here. On February 3rd, 2021, the Board of Estimate and Contract vote to approve this estimate. I mean, I know what I mean. Voted to approve, it's past tense. I mean, I don't know if Corporation Council reviews this, whether the city council reviews it, or the city council president. Somebody's got to proofread this stuff. It's embarrassing. I'll just give you a couple of examples. I don't want to go through it even more of it.
Mr. Keller?
That's it?
Yes,
My 4
sir.
minutes are up. Okay.
When you turned into our English coach, I began to look at the time, sir.
It might sound picky, but, you know, the other thing is,
when someone uses commas or commas in a series, red, white, and blue, say, red, comma, white, and blue. The and separates the white and the blue, the last two. I mean, that's just a simple example. Everybody's using commas, run-on sentences, dangling participles, whatever.
I have an issue with the commas, but there's a legal thing about the commas that I've argued back and forth, but no matter here or there. At this time, thank you, Mr. Keller. At this time, we're going to ask for responses from our council. I would like to begin, Mr. Clerk, can we get our council members that are from Zoom just prepared? Maybe we'll start with Councilwoman Farquharson. Could you just test your mic for us and see how we're doing, Councilwoman Farquharson?
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Thank you, Council President. And good evening to the community. Thank you for being here and for participating and paying attention. Thank you to the Corporation Council for bringing again his concerns about his department to our attention. I'd like to respond to former Mayor Davis, and I want to acknowledge his service to our community and to say good evening. I agree with Mayor Davis that the sale of the YMCA, and I'll just include Trustee Marable in it as well. Good evening, Trustee Marable. I'll just say that the sale of the YMCA, I believe, is short-sighted, and it's a bad idea. And I've felt this way since 2018 when I joined this body, and this idea was presented. I see the YMCA as an asset to our community. The standard that is used for the sale of municipally owned property is that it's not needed for municipal use. And that is not the case with the YMCA building. I feel like if we had the motivation, the intention to complete the repairs. I've been in that building. I went in 2018 when I first joined this body, and the work that was done was impressive, and that work should have been completed, should not have been left to languish. But it is an asset to our community. We cannot, with good conscience, say that the YMCA building is not needed. If we say that, we're lying to ourselves, and worse, we're lying to our community. Former Mayor Davis is correct that it is the only public pool that remains in Mount Vernon, except for the high school, which is not always accessible. And while the pool does not meet current day standards, it's still a pool where my children learn to swim. And it is still a pool, nonetheless, that has served our community for a long time. We are devoid of resources for our young people. And Trustee Marable is correct. In every community that's thriving north of here, they have a community center or a YMCA. And why not us? When the need is greatest here, why not us? So, again, I'm going to say that I too will beseech this body to rethink selling the YMCA building. The development that is proposed for the YMCA can fit elsewhere. There are plenty of land in Mount Vernon that could be bought, and that same idea of an artist loft or artist, whatever, housing, can be put on private property. It does not need to be, the YMCA has to be destroyed for that development to come to fruition. And that is what I want this body to think about. We cannot sell the assets of this community and then ask why we're in the state that we're in. It is shameful. And I've told you all plenty of times. I did not run for this office because I wanted something to do. I ran for this office because I wanted to help. I'm a social worker by training, a licensed clinical social worker. I'm in private practice, and I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I think I have the skills, the expertise, the integrity, the intention to be an asset to this community. And that's why I am here. So I am saying to this body, do not sell the YMCA. Because the YMCA is an asset that can be reclaimed for our community for generations to come. I'd like to thank Egypt Allen for coming, as always, and being somewhat of a conscience in our community. And, you know, a king or a queen is infrequently recognized in the kingdom. But you are wise, Egypt Allen, you are wise, because many of the things, the decisions that are being made are heralding displacement and gentrification. The homelessness in our community continue to rise. The rampant existence of slumlords that take advantage of our community continue to rise. And then when you see the increase in self-storage facility, you know that is also heralding displacement and gentrification. But this body, to its credit, supported and passed the resolution that I proposed that says we abhor gentrification. We are against the displacement of our community. We want to see the folks who live here remain here. And so every decision that we make should have that in mind. We should not be thinking about separating people from their community or from their culture, because that's what displacement does. And so it is really important that we consider that every decision that we make, particularly decision that has to do with development, I say it all the time, that development is the vehicle that corruption uses. And we have not been spared of that. So I ask us to consider that every decision that we make will be in the best interest of the people of this community. And not when it's convenient. Like I said, I'm a social worker. I've worked in a mental health clinic here. I've served the people of this community, and they know my heart. They know I'm not here because I want a job. I'm not here because I have nothing else to do. I'm here because I believe I have the skills, the integrity, the intention to serve the people of this community. And Mr. Keller, with that, I'll say that I've expressed my intention to vote no on this budget. We cannot propose a 3.86% increase, tax increase, and not have, of course, they talk about the elimination of vacant positions, and that's all well and good. But we cannot continue to increase the budget by putting in new positions and not eliminating not one position, not reducing the budget by one live dollar, and then expect that this budget is in the best interest of the community. I, as a city council person, I'm here to represent the people. And what the people have said to me is that this budget is not acceptable, so I will not be supporting this budget. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Farquharson, and just for your information, I know you're not here. Egypt Allen did leave, so she did not hear you. So if you wanted to communicate that to her, I'm just letting you know she was not here to hear you in that regard. I didn't want to interrupt you during your speech. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Councilwoman Duarte, please.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening to everyone here, to the community on Facebook. Welcome and thank you for joining us this evening at the City Council meeting this Wednesday. Beginning with Mayor Davis and Board Trustee Ms. Marable, thank you so much for coming tonight. I recognize and honor your service to the city. I thank you for all that you have done for the community. I heard your comments and I take them very seriously with regards to the why. Your love for the city is clear. So thank you for that. I'm going to just keep everything really short and sweet. Ms. Allen is not here, but as always, appreciate her comments. And Mr. Keller, yeah, the budget process has not been an easy one. The fact is that we are at the end of February and we need a budget. And that does put us in a difficult position. We've been here before, but hopefully this is the last time that we are this late with a budget. You know, the committee I chair, we have some challenges with DPW, with management services, with the law department, and not having an adopted budget for 2021 is already creating a lot of difficulty, financial difficulty in those departments, and executing on the consent decrees that we have, on our responsibility and obligations to the citizens. So this is just a difficult time, and and honestly, we don't have time on our side at this point. So I have my reservations and discomfort with the budget. But this city needs to operate, the city needs to govern, and the city needs to have a budget. So that just concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Duarte. Councilman Thompson, please.
Good evening and thank you. In regards to everything
Go ahead.
going on within the city, everyone must understand that it is our duty to do what's commonly good for the city of Mount Vernon. Every decision we make, we have to ensure that we're making the best decisions to carry this city forward. With that being said, there will be properties in and throughout our community that would have to go back on the tax brackets so we can get funds coming into the city so this city can properly run. These things didn't just happen overnight, right? These things have been happening for decades. And previous administrations, time and time again, have done a disservice to our community. That's why we need people in place, such as myself, who really are caring about our community and who are doing the best for our community. Now, when we discuss about our budget, I was in no way, shape, or form for furloughs. I'm not for laying off our essential workers. These are the same workers who have bust their tails to ensure that the safety of this city was in place. And they worked through the entire pandemic, and we're still going through it. And they're still on the front line. And these workers have not been paid for months upon months, but they show up to the job every single day, to make sure that you and I are well taken care of. Even on days when the garbage may seem like it's getting picked up late, but you have to see the manpower that they have to utilize to get these jobs done. You have to see these vehicles that are decades old to get these jobs done. When we complain about our streets, listen, the potholes are messing up my car as well. But you have to see the equipment that they have to utilize and the lack of manpower as well. We have to continuously make sure that we put things in place so we don't have to go through this again. It's important that we all come together and do what's best for our community. And anytime we vote on anything, you put your personal agenda aside or your personal feelings aside and say, at the end of the day, what's going to help Mount Vernon move forward? Having police in place is going to help Mount Vernon move forward. Having workers that can be in DPW to pick up our garbage and clean our streets and do the things that they do every single day. DPW does not just sit there waiting for things to happen. They are continuously working every single day. And we have to have these workers in place. Our fire department, we have to have these workers in place because fires happen every single day in some form or fashion. So we can't just lay off or furlough people and then, God forbid, someone dies again because we don't have the manpower to do what we need to do, and you have that on your conscience, and we go to the I wish I could have, would have, should have, did something else. We have to make sure we're doing the best for our community every time we sign a paper to enforce anything for this community. It is important that we stick together and do what's right for the community. And anytime someone abstains or votes against something that's a necessity for our community, it's a disservice. And I don't want anyone to think that I confront people who are elected officials or in appointed positions, but I will never allow anyone to give you hamburgers and tell you it's filet mignon. I have to continuously call a spade a spade. And if people are if they have shortcomings for our community, I have to call them out on it. Because it stops today. Accountability is necessary. In everything that goes on in our community, we have to hold our elected officials accountable for what they allow to happen in our community. Because if you didn't know, this body, we are the legislators, we are the lawmakers of this community. I wish some of us remember conjunction junction, what's your function? So we'll know exactly who plays a part in the community and what their job is. And so many of us, we sit in these seats, but we have no clue on the importance of our positions. We cannot just let our city just go to hell. Because over the last couple of decades, that's what it's been doing. It has just been depreciating. We got properties that are just festing these pests, rats, raccoons, and possum, and things of that nature. All of these things can be prevented. So we have to make sure, yes, we have to sell some properties. Everything in the community cannot be low-income housing. If everything in this community is going to be low-income housing, how much taxes do you think these homeowners are really going to pay? If everything, somebody has to foot the bill, right? So when we're talking about, Councilwoman Farquharson said, development is the vehicle used for corruption. I disagree. To some extent, maybe. It all depends on what a person's mindset is, if they have a personal agenda trying to get something for their own pockets. But we have to have development within the city in order to move forward. And within that development, we have to make sure that we don't have pilots in place giving these people tax breaks and it falls on the back of homeowners. We have to make sure anybody who comes here, if you want to build here, bring your money. Because there will be no pilots under my watch. I'll never vote for a pilot. So you have to make sure that you're doing right for this community. Everyone has to pay their fair share. Most people didn't want the Best Buy in the Target and everything on Sanford Boulevard. They voted against it. They didn't want it there. And now that it's been built over a decade, they can't stay out of there. We needed that development there to make sure that there is a tax offset so now we can get that income to help us balance how much the taxes are in and throughout this community. And I always try to educate people why the taxes in this community are so high. Your city taxes is about this much, but your school taxes is about this much. And we ask why. Because this 4.2 square miles, most communities this size have about 2 or 3 schools the most. We have 16 public schools, 2 charter schools, and a Board of Education that has to be fully equipped. So it's about educating ourselves and knowing what's in our community and how can we better utilize our funds. Because it's important that we're not just spending money, but we're wisely spending money. We're not wasting money on lawsuits in and through our community, and then we are recycling the same officials who bled us dry. How are we doing this? And I agree with Mayor Davis, wake up, stop voting for people just because of name recognition, just because they're your friend. Where have they been in this community before it was election time? What have, like Janet Jackson said, what have you done for me lately? If you are an elected official, us as a community, our question should be, what have you done for me lately? If you've been in position for 2, 3, 4 years, what have you done before it was petition time again? And if somebody is running for the very first time, it's your job to look at their agenda. What can they do for this community going forward? And when they sell you their representative, because a lot of times you don't see who they are until they're in position, they give you their representative. You have to look into what their agenda is to make sure that it's the best thing for the city. And we can no longer just sit back and allow people to just take advantage of our community. Because our community is better than being a resume builder for anyone. This is not a stepping stone. We have council persons who don't want to be council persons, they want to be mayor. It's time out for us allowing anyone to use our community as a stepping stone just to build your resume. It's time to put people in place who are going to do the work for this community. And if you're not going to do the work, we're not voting you in. So in the same way I'm asking that you hold the elected officials accountable, I'm asking that you hold all of us as residents accountable. You are accountable for your vote. Because come Tuesday, June 22nd, you have to make a decision. Which 3 council persons are you going to vote to occupy those 3 seats? Which 1 person are you going to vote for comptroller who's going to move our city forward? These are just decisions that are very important. We can't just bubble in a name just for the sake of bubbling in a name. You have to say who's going to do right by our community and who are we going to trust to move our community forward. So from this day forth, let's just work together to ensure the safety of our community, the well-being of our community, and make sure that for generations to come, our community can survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Thompson. I failed to recognize Library Trustee Judy Williams Davis, who is also in the audience. Is it library night tonight? Was there a memo I didn't read? So we have three library trustees here this evening. But there's no library business, so there's no quorum, just for the record, blah, 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 blah. Not here, thank God. Okay, so next up, Councilwoman Copeland, your remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me? Mayor Davis and Ms. Maribel and all the other speakers who came out tonight. You know, when you it's so interesting. Development, it always gets a bad, it seems like it always gets a bad name. But when you drive through this community and you look at so many of the streets that have remained blighted for so many years, and just because you believe that nice, decent housing should be all across the city, that doesn't mean that, I mean, I don't understand us. We deserve it. The people from 4th Street, from the Bronx line, all the way down to Pelham, they deserve nice housing too. The people on 3rd Street, they all deserve decent housing. And when you look through this city, a lot of times you don't see that. And we deserve that. They deserve better than all of this blight that has lasted so long. So with regards to the Y, Mount Vernon Y, which left here it's almost a decade ago now. And when we fought, I'm so happy that everybody supports the Y now. I'm not talking about those of you who supported the facility, but so many people didn't because we couldn't sustain ourselves. I was president of the board when we were going up to White Plains to the corporate board to fight to keep that Y open. And we came to different elected people and, we got a lot of yab, but we didn't get a lot of dollars. And that's why they left. And in terms of the White Plains YMCA, they're selling their building too. They're running the programs throughout the city, but they're selling their building because they can't afford to sustain it. So we have to be real about that. And I hated it. We fought like, I don't like to cuss, but we fought like heck to keep that Y here because of the programs that supported the community, like that pool that they won state, the Water Dragons won state championships, even though the pool wasn't regulation. It killed us. We fought like heck to keep that building open. And now we're going to try after. I think we deserve our brand new Y too. Because the facility is not handicapped. Well, I'm not going to do that. I spoke my piece on that. I hear you. I thank you, Mayor Davis, and I understand where you're coming from. I want to thank Ms. Allen for coming, and she always puts a face to things that seem like they don't have faces, because so often people think we talk about brick and mortar, but we talk about brick and mortar because they are bodies that live in this old brick and mortar, and they deserve better. We got to think we deserve better. When things come to our community, sometimes we act like we don't deserve it. That's why you had 14 lawsuits down there at Best Buy and all of that. I remember those days. I was around the city then. And we had to fight to get that. One of the highest grossing sales tax developments in the whole state of New York to this day. So in order to make our budgets better, we have to increase revenue. And how do we do that? We need to get more businesses in here. But what business would come in here when you drive through the center of town and you see all of this blight? Why would you move your business here if we can't sustain that? You all tell me. I need you to work with us on this. We deserve the best, and we have to start acting like it. Thank you, Mr. Keller. I hear you, and I'm hoping that in April we'll try to do get quarterly numbers, so we won't be in this position with our budget for next year. It's hard to operate in the blind, and while it's not the greatest of budgets, it's what we have to work with, and we have to have funds flowing into our city to make this government work. I don't think the last 3 budgets that I voted for that I like, but do I not vote for it and stop the city from running? We're at the end of February now. That's all I got, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Copeland, and thank you all council members. Everybody made very, very valid points. Councilwoman Copeland, especially being here the longest, maybe not sitting in the council position, but being here the longest, you have the longest breast of history, and you've seen how many things we've tried to do and been able to accomplish, and you're absolutely right. When you look at Sanford Boulevard, when we look at the tax numbers that is coming out of Sanford Boulevard, did they have a pilot? Yes, but it's over 20 years ago now, and we are reaping all the benefits of that construction that is down there. Huge success for Mount Vernon. If we didn't have the Target to Best Buy, the Staples, that whole corridor, we would not be in as good of a shape as we are now.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. President, and the council doesn't vote on pilots. pilots. The IDA does. I meant to say that at the beginning to correct our councilman. We never vote on pilots. It's the IDA.
Thank you. Yes, you're absolutely correct. We've been accused of voting on pilots many times before, and I've had arguments with people that insisted that I voted on a pilot when I did not. I do serve on the IDA board this year, but the council does not vote on pilots. It is not within our purview. That is within the purview of the Industrial Development Agency, which is a state agency that we have that allows the payment in lieu of taxes. So thank you, Councilwoman Copeland, on that. I think about neighborhoods that are suffering. I think about the Heights. When you drive around the Heights, Oakwood Heights, around Graham School, there are a number of houses that are just halfway burnt down. I wish we could put in the budget some funds to help some of those homeowners to remove that blight from those neighborhoods. I believe that there are homeowners that do not have insurance. Houses may be paid for, and when they burn down, there's no insurance company to facilitate the demolition of those homes. There should be, burnt out house remediation in the city budget so that we can tear them down. There is not. I am not 100% pleased with the budget. I wish we could have a lower tax percentage, but as Councilman Thompson said, the reality is when you look at the budget and you look that 90% of the budget is comprised of salaries and salary-related benefits, whenever you're looking at doing any substantial cuts, you're looking at people. When you look at DPW, you realize that they're the heartbeat of the city. They keep everything going. When you look at police, you think about if you were to have an emergency, the police come a-running, and I've literally seen them come a-running, driving and literally running up steps, holding doors open, etc. It's not a joke when the police have to come. And for fire, Councilman Thompson is absolutely correct. It's not just fires that they handle a lot more. In fact, we're looking to expand the fire department to also handle our ambulance service because we know per capita we call the ambulance service more than any other community. We are a community in need. In terms of potholes, yes, we have potholes, and yes, I've cracked a rim with the potholes around this city. In a way, I believe traffic is slowing down now because there's so many potholes. There's so many things to avoid in the city. You have to slow down. We don't need to invest in speed bumps. We have potholes. I joke, and it's funny, but it's not funny. We need to approve the CHIPS funds so that we can repave our streets. And yes, in the middle of the winter is when potholes happen. They do happen, but once the winter is over, the best thing to do is repave curb to curb. I definitely want to thank Mayor Davis for coming in. I had the pleasure of working under Mayor Davis. I wish that I was not here when the Y was purchased. And I watched the Y be renovated very well, very crafty work. We used people in need also to do some of that work. The building was, I want to say, 85% complete. The Thomas administration absolutely neglected that building. It has fallen into deep disrepair. A lot of things that we should have done in the first 6 months of the Thomas administration, we did not do. And that building has suffered greatly. Yes, we do have an option to sell that building, and Trustee Marable, the reason why I put up a frown wasn't being disrespectful. It's just the misinformation that's being delivered. And I'm just going to touch on a few points that are really important for the community to know. Number one, it is no longer the YMCA. Even though it was used as YMCA, they do not own the building. The building is owned by the city. We really need to refer to it as the building formerly known as the YMCA. It does have YMCA features, but it is no longer the YMCA. So we need to disconnect that building with that institution. It is a dated building. That pool is not to code. There are a lot of things in there that if you walked into that building, you would not be pleased. It is not a state-of-the-art building by far. So we need to do some corrective measures if we are going to keep that building. I personally don't believe that we are ever going to have the capacity to bring that building back. And because of that timeline, because of that reality, I think we need to do something else. and I will look at any offer to do something other than the dream of doing something with that building on our own. We don't have the capacity to do that. We have so many other problems. I just don't see it happening. And the real reason why I frowned is because at one point, the developer named the project Library Square. At one point, there was a plan to involve the actual Mount Vernon Public Library as an institution in with the development of that project. That is no longer the case. We still call it Library Square, but it is absolutely has nothing to do with the Mount Vernon Public Library. So we need to disconnect that as well. As far as it being 4 lots, that is exactly right. That's what the potential developer is proposing. We still need to look at that. We need 4 votes in order to sell that facility from the city council. That is a supermajority. It is very hard to achieve. We haven't had success in the past, and I think we need to continue to have that discussion. Being a member of the real estate committee, we have gone through the process of ceding that authority to sell that building from the real estate committee. We've accepted all of the letters from the city organizations that have confirmed that this building, even though the technical term is not needed for municipal use, the real analysis is not only is it needed for municipal use, do we have a use for this building? We do, but the reality is, are we going to do what we need to do in order for that building to be used? And I think the conclusion is that after all of the work that we need to do, our reality is that that building is not realistically going to be used by the city. As far as Mr. Keller's concerned, I agree with you. Your comments about the healthcare contributions to the payments for the healthcare contributions is a valid one in corporate America. But when you're talking about a civil organization like this, where we have unions that don't have contracts year over year, it's very hard to ask a union that you don't have a contract with to pay more to healthcare. It becomes part of the negotiation. So I absolutely hear you. We need to find ways to cut costs. But if our employees don't have contracts, it's very hard to try and charge them for more if we're not contributing to what we pay them for. I do think that we need to do a better job of explaining the tax cap override. We did perform a calculation. We do have that calculation. It was in our council packets. I don't know if we're going to be able to explain it enough to the community tonight, but I will get that calculation, and if I need to, I will do a special presentation on how we got there, and how I was even informed as to how that calculation is put together. In summary, I really thought that our fund balance was a factor in that calculation, and it is not. I'm believing that at some point it was, but the true calculation is between what our tax levy is versus what it was in the previous year. That pretty much sums up where we are, and that's how we got to the calculation that we believe that we are under the tax cap with this 3.86%. Now, I'm going to be honest, we could be wrong in our calculation, and that's why I've recommended to the council to still pass the override. And just for transparency, I informed the council that I didn't think we needed to vote for the override at all without knowing the factors of the calculation. Since we don't know the fund balance, how can we calculate the tax cap if we don't know what the fund balance was? I stand corrected. After we spoke to the Office of the State Controller, the State Controller defined to us better how you calculate it. We calculated it. We are under the tax cap, we believe. And I think it's best for the safety of our residents to go ahead and override that tax cap. Because the punishment for not overriding the tax cap, if you have the reserves, is that you have to set reserves in a future year. And that's not a constraint that I want to put on the city of Mount Vernon. So my recommendation to the council is a complete 180, and that is to go ahead and override the tax cap. I am willing to learn. I'm willing to be wrong, and I'm willing to be corrected. So that's where we are. I don't know how long I talked, but Janice Duarte, you won the shortest talk tonight so far. Congratulations to you. Without me counting my time, Mr. Thompson, you spoke the longest. All jokes, all fun with politics, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, we're going to take a very short break. We don't have that many people here, but I honestly need to stretch. Folks that are on Facebook, thank you very much. We will be back within 5 minutes to begin our legislative session. We know that the fun is listening to us talk, but the reality is what we're really here tonight for is to pass legislation. My favorite schoolhouse rock was I'm Just a Bill, I'm Just Sitting Here on Capitol Hill. If you know that one, you know what we're about to do with our legislative session. With that, 5 minutes, we'll see you very soon. Thank you. everybody for our little break. We needed to stretch just a moment. It's 9 o'clock. That was 2 hours. Wow. Time flies. Say it again. Yeah, Derek spoke for about 45 minutes, you know. Sermon. You were just over 10, sir. You were 10 minutes and 33 seconds. Not that I was... I know, well, I don't know. Well, anyway. All right, good. So again, good evening, everybody. I think we're ready to begin. This is the portion of our council meeting where we go right into our referrals. Of course, I'm not even prepared. I don't have my referral sheet with me. And the clerk saves me once again. I remember when I first was serving on the council, this lady by the name of Lisa Copeland saved me when it was time to do my referrals. I was sitting right over there. She came in and saved the day with the referral sheet. Thank you, Councilwoman Copeland.
People soon forget how many days you saved over the years.
We always begin with legislation and public works.
Thank you, Council President. Item number 7 is called for. Item number 9 is called for. Item number 12, number 18, and number 19 are for information. Item 30 is called for. Item 31 is called for. Items 35 and 36 are for information. And item number 4 is called for. And I don't believe I have any add-ons, so that completes my report.
Thank you, Madame. Public safety and codes.
Thank you, President. Items
Human
number
resources.
5 and 6 are called for. Items number 8, 10, and 16 are for information. Item number 21 is on the agenda as number 2. Items number 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 29, and 34 are called for. Item number 37 is for information. I have an add-on that was for information, but I have the add-on number 3, which is on the agenda. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Out of order, I don't know why you did that. Human resources.
Thank you, Council President. So item 13 is called for. Matter of fact, item 13, I'm going to say it's for information. Item 15 is for information. Item 33 is on the agenda as item number 1. That concludes my referrals.
Thank you, Councilwoman Duarte. You're correct. We didn't catch that, but yes, 13 should have been for information, so we appreciate that. Farquharson. Ooh, a little too much tonight. Last but not least, Councilwoman Copeland, Finance and Planning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 1 is for information. Number 2 is for information. Number 3 is for information. Number 11 is called for. Number 14 is on the agenda. Number 17 is for information. 19A is for information. 20 is on the agenda. 28 is called for. 32. 13A. And 13B are
Okay,
I
thank
can
you.
add on, and that's the budget. Please, Mark.
Okay, we kind of lost the audio a little bit, but I believe you said 32 through 15. I'm sorry, 32, 13A, and 13B are for information. Is that correct?
You got me?
Say it one more time, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was correct.
Okay, thank you so much. That concludes that concludes our referrals. Mr. Clerk, I have this for you. I found mine. Thank you for your assistance. And when you're ready, we'll take a roll call.
Councilwoman Copeland?
Here at home.
You're at home. Councilwoman Duarte?
Present.
Councilwoman Farquharson? You are on Zoom at home. Thank you.
Here.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Thompson?
Here in City Council Chambers.
Council President Griffith?
Here and accounted for. Human
Thank you.
Resources.
I have a resolution in recognition of a random act of kindness. So,
Very good.
Second.
We had a first and a second
Second.
on the question. Councilwoman Farquharson, I would like a portion of that read into the record if you can. I'm afraid, though, that we may lose your audio. If we do, will you allow one of us in the chamber to read it for you? But if not, I would like for you to attempt to read it because it is your committee.
and if that doesn't work out, then I'd like it if someone else did.
Okay. If I may, Councilwoman
So,
Farquharson? So, this resolution was...
this says,
Was that me? Yes? Okay. This resolution was presented to us, our own Daniel Terry, for an act that he saw. This is for Mrs. Victoria Ryder. Mr. Terry, is he? Oh, there he is. Good to see you, sir. Thank you, sir. This is a resolution in recognition of a random act of kindness, whereas Victoria Ryder is a loving mother of two, and whereas Victoria Ryder on February 7th, 2021, came across a homeless person sitting on a park bench covered with snow in freezing cold temperatures and couldn't just walk away. And whereas Victoria, rather than continue about her day, decided to act, immediately turned to Facebook, where she rallied her friends and family to donate what they could to assist in sheltering the gentleman who later identified himself as Darrell. And unbeknownst to Victoria, her post would touch the hearts of hundreds of Mount Vernon residents, and within 3 hours, Victoria was able to raise over $800, which, as it turned out, was enough to house the man in a hotel for a week and supply him with much-needed food and other essentials. And whereas Victoria's humble act in the midst of a pandemic may have saved this man's life, despite experiencing her own hardships, but she understood that she was no better than him and chose to help her neighbor. And now, therefore, it be resolved, the City Council of the City of Mount Vernon, New York, by its members, the Honorable City Council President Marcus A. Griffith, Honorable Councilwoman Lisa A. Copeland, the Honorable City Councilman, City Councilman Derek Thompson, the Honorable City Councilwoman Delia Farquharson, and the Honorable Councilwoman Janice Duarte do hereby appreciate acts of kindness in our city by residents who act for the common good without expecting any recognition, and appreciate Daniel Terry, City of Mount Vernon Communications Director, for bringing the special conduct of Victoria Ryder to the attention of City Council, and acknowledge Victoria Ryder for her random act of kindness despite her own hardships during the pandemic, and because she always shows up not only for her family, but her community as well. Thank you. Thank you very much. And yes, this is an example of not only Miss Victoria Ryder's kindness, but also other people in Mount Vernon who don't ask for recognition. They just get it done. And could you please turn off your phone, whoever it is? Thank you. for residents of Mount Vernon that just do what they need to do in the time of need, don't ask for any recognition. This is also for you who we may not have noticed or recognized, but we know that there are hundreds of people in the city of Mount Vernon that just continue to do the right thing for the community. And thank you, Mr. Terry, for recognizing this and knowing that the council is here, residents who do that, and we are always accepting to be able to pass resolutions for people that go beyond their normal course of day. So thank you, Victoria Ryder, and thank you, Mr. Terry. Roll call.
Councilwoman Copeland?
I guess nobody else gets to talk since you hogged that up, but aye.
Councilwoman Duarte?
Aye.
Councilwoman Farquharson?
Aye.
Councilman Thompson? Aye. And Council President Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Public safety and codes.
Thank you, President. I have an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with IA Pro. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Councilwoman Copeland?
Aye.
Councilwoman Duarte?
Aye.
Councilwoman Farquharson?
Aye.
Councilman Thompson? Aye. Council President Griffith?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, I have an amendment.
Ordinance. The ordinance passes, not a motion. It's an ordinance.
Thank you for the correction. Ordinance passes. Thank you, ma'am.
I have a resolution amending resolution number 14 adopted November 24th, 2020, entitled Resolution of the City Council of the City of Mount Vernon, New York, Stop the Itchy Finger. This is just to make a correction to the name. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Councilwoman Copeland?
Aye.
Councilwoman Duarte?
Aye.
Councilwoman Farquharson?
Aye.
Councilman Thompson?
Aye.
Council President Griffith?
Aye.
Thank you.
Finance
The
and
resolution
planning.
passes.
The resolution passes. Anyway, thank you. I have a local, number 4, a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3-C. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Councilwoman Copeland?
Aye.
Councilwoman Duarte?
Aye.
Councilwoman Farquharson?
No.
Councilman Thompson?
Aye.
Council President Griffith?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
I have number 5, an ordinance authorizing the city of Mount Vernon to adopt the retention and disposition schedule for New York local government records. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Councilwoman Copeland?
Aye.
Councilwoman Duarte?
Aye.
Councilwoman Farquharson?
Aye.
Councilman Thompson?
Aye.
Council President Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
I have ordinance number 6, ordinance, not a motion, an ordinance pursuant to the New York State Governor's Executive Order
Don't say it.
202.83 relating to renewal of exemptions pursuant to real property tax law, sections 467 and 459C for the tax year 2021. So moved.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, this relates to senior citizens exemption as well as the disabled exemption.
That's right. Tree injury.
Any other questions? Comments?
No.
Concerns?
Good thing. It's a good thing.
Excellent. Roll call.
Councilwoman Copeland?
Aye.
Councilwoman Duarte?
Aye.
Councilwoman Farquharson?
Aye.
Councilman Thompson. Aye. Council President Griffith.
Aye.
Thank you.
And my final ordinance, ordinance number 7, ordinance adopting the annual budget for the year 2021. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Councilwoman Duarte?
I just want to put on the record, as I said earlier, I do have concerns about this budget, but for example, DPW has a lease agreement for several vehicles. That payment is now overdue because we do not have a 2021 budget yet. And with respect to that, so that the vehicles are not repossessed, it's important that we have a 2021 budget in place. The same for legislation we just adopted in public safety and codes for the IA Pro, which is the police department's computer software program that serves their investigations and trials, their internal affairs unit. That is also money that would be appropriated in the 2021 budget. These are all things that allow the city to continue to function. And so for that reason, I'll be supporting the budget.
Council President, if I may.
Councilwoman Duarte, Farquharson?
Yes, I just want to say, and I'll be very brief, is that I think 3.86 is, a burden, a real burden on our community, particularly a community that has been so significantly hit by COVID, and I cannot with good conscience vote for this budget.
Councilman Thompson?
I have some reserves about our current budget. However, I don't want to. I don't want for our city to come to a shutdown because we don't have a budget in place. In order for us to have our day-to-day duties carried out, we must have a budget in place. We are already at the end of February without having a budget in place. It saddens me that there's any kind of increase. I think 0.1% is too much for our citizens, because I hate to see any type of tax increase on our residents. However, in order for this community to keep on functioning, in order for us to keep on moving forward to do what we have to do, I would have to support the budget to make sure that our city does not shut down and we can continue to function with our daily necessities at this point.
Thank you.
I guess I might as well speak, Mr. President, and I'm hopeful. I want to make it 4 for 4. No, and I'm hopeful that when we can get this information from the banks, that we'll have information going forward for this year that will help us to make a better and more timely decision. That's all. Thank you, sir.
Yes, and this has been rather difficult. I know the administration has delayed really getting into the budget. I think that the attempt to gain the financials before the end of the year, we should not attempt to do that before the end of this year. We have to work on the 2022 budget timely. And if we have to adjust accordingly closer to the end of the year, we should still at least have a budget pre-prepared and not pretty much introduced in January. And unfortunately, that is exactly what happened this year. And I'm not putting any blame, but the reality is that we don't have any financials in order to really know at what stage we are financially. I believe that when we do get some financial information, I pray that we have the problem of having too much money, and I would not discount the opportunity at that point to even review our finances and to recommend a refund to the taxpayers for monies that we've had and that we didn't know that we had. I don't think it's correct that we are taxing people with this percentage increase, where it's quite possible that we have reserves that we could have used more than we did use to keep this budget down. And this is coming from somebody that has passed budgets and had to negotiate budgets over 7% in my prior years. I've negotiated budgets as low as 0%. I've said time and time again, the cost of inflation is somewhere around 2%. I think it is only but realistic that every year we should consistently increase our budget 2% without new revenues in our city. I think we need to continue to look at new revenue sources to help absorb the expenses that we have. And the unfortunate thing is that those expenses or those revenues only come in with new forms of development in our city or realigning our city, and that begins with the capital projects plan. So I am very much in favor of a 5-year plan. I don't think it is the right thing to do 1 year at a time. I have always put together or tried to introduce not only the current year's budget, but also the next year's budget, so we have some expectations of where we're going. So I'm in favor of this budget at this time being so late. I know that the council is looking for future legislation that may alleviate the taxpayers of the interest that will be due, whether it be commencing in April or May. We are realistic in our approach. We do not want our taxpayers feeling like they're pressured and rushed into bringing their taxes in at the end of March. We will gauge that, and the council will act accordingly to alleviate the residents of the interest charges once those bills are released. We will be working with the Comptroller's Office if she will allow us to know when those bills have finally gone out, and we will give a correct amount of time for the residents to be able to bring their taxes in. We are very conscious, and we have discussed that the county taxes are due in April, and maybe that is the right time for residents to not be charged interest until that month has expired. So we will continue to work on that. This council is working. We will continue to work. With that, if there's no other comments from the council, going once, going twice, roll call.
Councilwoman Copeland,
Aye.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Farquharson,
No.
Councilman Thompson, Council President Griffith.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes this council meeting for this evening. If there's no other comments from the city council at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn this meeting, also in the memory of several people we've lost this week. We lost Mr. Brian Allen, who was a prominent member of this community. We lost Mr. Carlton Norton, and Carlton Norton Sr., and several other people throughout this community during this pandemic. So let's keep those families in your prayers. Thank you.
With that, I
Thank
would
you.
like, Councilwoman.
Second.
I'm sorry?
Second. I think you need a second on a motion.
Yes, I do. We do need a second. I would like to add our former Mount Vernon resident and historian Lawrence Otis Graham. As you may know, he was a prolific historian and a writer, especially when it comes to African American experiences in this country. He was a local resident, well known. He was a co-father with me in the Jack and Jill organization. I remember specifically going with him to the Hip Hop Museum in Harlem, and he began to, even though he was a character that you didn't think knew hip hop, he knew a great amount of history of the hip hop era that we all grew up in, and it is a huge loss. You may also remember him from his commentary on the cable news channels, his perspective for Mount Vernon and for African-American livelihood in Westchester County. He was a member of, and maybe Councilwoman Copeland, you can remind me, he was a member of one of the county boards serving with under George Latimer and the board, so he continued to serve. He had 3 young children, a lovely wife, great executives, both highly degreed, and it's a quick loss, and so I think we need to grieve with his family, and we would like to also add his name with a moment of silence during our conclusion of this meeting tonight. So thank you, and God bless him and his family. We did have a second roll call, please.
Councilwoman Copeland,
Aye.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Farkason,
Aye.
Councilman Thompson,
Aye.
Council President Griffith.
Aye.
Thank
Please
you.
stand for a moment of silence. Godspeed, Mount Vernon. This meeting is adjourned.